Hello, y'all. How are y'all doing? Another background, another temporary home if you're on video. Here we are. So, what I want to look at today, what if you didn't need to heal? What if you weren't broken and therefore there was nothing to fix? What if all of this kind of, internal work that we're invited to do is really as simple as just loving ourselves? Rather than seeing ourselves as like a project that needs improving, that needs more healing, that needs more fixing, that needs more something, that there's always something that you feel like, it's interesting how we're in a society that breeds this not enough culture, right? And it can translate into the well-being world, into the spiritual world. You're not healed enough. You're not spiritual enough. You're not enlightened enough. You're not something enough. It's the same exact paradigm, but we've just moved it into self-improvement. So what I want to talk about today is, what would it be like? What would it feel like if you didn't need to heal? Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't still things going on inside of us, but I want to reframe it a little bit. So let's dive in. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. So, it's a wild and chaotic world out there, right? Keeps on getting a little bit louder and a little bit louder, or a lot a bit louder. And I was reading something the other day, and I wholeheartedly agree with this, and it's definitely been my experience too, that when your external world feels like you can't even grasp onto a kind of known reality anymore because it's shifting and changing so rapidly. And as you've probably heard the terms, like, things are crumbling, right? This is the demolition, and it's a very necessary process, but it can feel really destabilizing. It can feel very confusing for some. So the greatest place that you can go, and the most important thing that you can do, is going inwards. That's the invitation right now, is everything that we've learned to look to the external world for, even our spiritual growth and our healing and development, our whatever, we've been kind of told, go seek out there, go to the guru, go to the teacher, go to the organization, look to, who is the authority that's telling you what to do and how to live and how to be, right? And these times it's like, let's make the outer world so messy that you can't even take it in because it's so overwhelming and it's so confusing and it's so contradicting and paradoxical, that actually the only place of peace is right here. You close your eyes, you go into your chest, you go into your heart, you go into your belly and your gut, you go into your body. And that is the portal to really what we've been seeking all along, which is your true self, your higher self, God's source, the womb of the universe, the womb of all creation, right? And it's inside, it's in the darkness inside. And that's where the pilot light gets lit, right? But what if we were to change the perspective from, I need to go in and do the inner work because I need to heal this, this, and this, and this, and this. I had this trauma from my childhood. I have this wound from my childhood. I've had these belief systems, all of this stuff. There's nothing wrong with that, essentially. I've worked 15 years looking at these things. But I think we're almost at a time where the acceleration of all things, including healing, is there. It's present for us, right? And what is always the most immediate, direct form of alchemy and transmutation, and therefore healing? It's love, right? So we have to shift the way that we perceive how we face ourselves, how we look at ourselves. If I cannot tell you how many, I don't do consultations anymore, but when I used to do like a free 15-minute consultation, with a potentially new client, I cannot tell you how many times, virtually every single phone call that I picked up, the person would say, "What's wrong with me? How do I get rid of this? How do I fix this?" And so my saying would always be, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. There's nothing to fix. There's just something inside of you that needs your loving attention. And that's it. And I've said that for over 15 years. So when that is like the reoccurring theme and it's the reoccurring answer, at least my answer, it might not be somebody else's answer, that's totally fine. But from where I'm standing, that's what's come up for me. Then the point is, how do we get immediately to that part, right? Of just, you just need loving attention, right? Because think of anything that happens in your life, any experience that you have, any trigger that you have, any emotion that comes up, or any whatever circumstance that comes up in your life. What is it that you most want? It's like a hug and an embrace, and somebody just to kind of, whether it's literally the words coming out of their mouth or the feeling, the emotion is like, I'm here for you. You're not alone. I see you. I hear you. I understand you. I love you. I accept you for who you are. And really what love is, like when we can love these parts, it's not about, I need to heal this and then I will be in a state of self-love. It's, I need to accept this. And then love is naturally there, because love is hugely accepting. Unconditional love, which I think it's hard for we humans to experience, but unconditional love, that you could say is the makeup of all of existence, that you could say is the energy of God, consciousness, source, creator of all that is. It's unconditional because it accepts you for who you are in all ways. It accepts all of us, even the most horrendous human being on this planet. God's source, consciousness, accepts that too as a part of itself, as like its child, right? And I don't want to say it in a way that sounds like it's superior, inferior, or patronizing, but more we need to shift again out of, we've been so trained to look at things through the hierarchical pyramid rather than the circle that is all inclusive, that is all one, that we're all part, right? And so when we start to reframe the way that we perceive things, because life is about perception, your reality is entirely based on your perception of it, right? It can change. There can be a million different angles in your own experience, let alone like with every, all 8 billion of us here, or however many we are now, God knows. So your perception becomes hugely important. And if you can shift your perception even from a center of gravity. And what I mean by that is, instead of looking at it top down vertically, it's not even actually, it's not linear. It's like, if you can start to see that everything is circular and cyclical. And what that means is that all things, all parts, all characters, all identities, everything gets to have a seat in the circle. And this is what was so powerful when we were kind of more, maybe before civilization, you could say, we would sit in circles. We wouldn't sit at square tables. I'm sitting at a square table right now. We would sit in circles, and we would sit in circles around a fire that is in a circle of stones. And so the circle is inclusive. What we've been taught as far as the pyramid, I mean, I love triangles, but there is something that the angularity of that, and because we've made, well, this is the top and you are the base. We don't even realize how much that goes into our belief systems and into our perception of ourselves, right? There's a better version, higher version of myself, and there's a worse version of myself, a lower version of myself, which you could change that. Like, even I work a lot with the Enneagram. You could say even within the Enneagram, there are different layers of healthy, average, and unhealthy of your personality, right? There's absolutely something to that. But again, if we perceive it as this is better and this is worse, what are we doing there? We're placing a judgment of this part that's worse, that isn't a good part of my personality, that I don't like, that needs to be fixed because something's wrong with it, because it's broken and it needs to be healed. We've placed that as something that's like beneath us, or something at worst that we want to hide away because we don't like it, because there's shame there. So when I first started working, specifically around the topic of fear, it was, how do you embrace your fear? It's not how do you overcome it. It's not how you transcend it. It's not how you circumvent it. It's how do you embrace it? Because everything wants to come into that lap of love that says, I see you, I hear you, I understand you, I love you, I accept you as you are. And then what happens? What happens when we're in that, like, motherly, fatherly embrace? We soften, we relax because we feel safe. So when it comes to self-improvement and when it comes to quote unquote healing, maybe I'm going into the semantics of it, but we have to look at how we define things. If you define healing as something that I need to make myself better because this part isn't good, there, even in the slightest of ways, there's a judgment there, right? I hear so many people, how much more healing do I have to do? How much more work do I have to do, Corinne? What if you didn't have to do so much work? What if there wasn't this Mount Everest of healing that you had to do? What if it was as simple as whatever is coming up for me in this moment, even if it's my triggers that bring up all of my shit and crap from the past, and I have this like repeated pattern of behavior, and my knee-jerk reaction is to react in this way, or to say this, or to feel triggered in this way, and this emotion comes up, whatever it is. We're very habitual creatures. So if you start to bring in awareness, which is always the beginning of the alphabet for me, is like all things start with awareness. Then you can begin to just observe it. It's becoming the witness. You don't need to become the therapist. You don't need to become the teacher. You don't need to become the guru. You don't need to become enlightened. Like all of these things that we seek for, we inevitably get there naturally and organically by just being it. A wise person doesn't go around saying, look at how wise I am. I'm so wise. This is my wisdom. A wise person just is wise. They don't need to advertise it, right? Someone that has a lot of knowledge and will say, I've read this book and I've done this and this, and is like trying to put out like all their accolades, all that I've, learned. And I recognize maybe the hypocrisy that as I'm explaining this, it sounds judgmental. I'm trying not to come from a place of judgment, but more of a place of, let's look at this whole kind of dynamic paradigm, right? When we feel like we have to show, prove, look at how much knowledge I have, look at how much wisdom I have. Do you see even what I'm doing physically? If you're looking at the video, I'm outside of myself. Something is outside of me. Whereas actually, when we actually get more quote unquote wise, is when we realize there's nothing that we need to show. There's nothing we need to prove. There's nothing that we need to convey. There's nothing like, I don't need you to hear me, see me, understand me, right? It's nice, but I don't need to do anything in order to receive that back from you. All I actually need to do is just be. And you see what happens to the body? The body actually settles back into the spine and allows the spine to just hold us up. So often people are kind of, they're ahead of themselves, or they're caved in on themselves. But when we actually just land in our body and go, wow, there's nothing I need to do. There's nothing I need to prove. There's nothing I need to fix. I don't need to try so damn hard. I know you've heard me talk about this before, but it's coming through strong today. So let's go with it. You get to just sit back and relax. It's like, here's the back of the seat, it gets to just hold me. I don't have to try so hard. It doesn't have to always be so much work. So if there are things within yourself that you need and want to heal, perceive it as something that is not like a task that needs to be done and that you need to succeed and achieve and get to some point. See it as, oh, this is a tender part of me. This is a scared part of me. This is a wound or scarred part of me even. How can I just sit with it with love? How can I listen to it? We need to listen to ourselves a hell of a lot more, and we need to listen to one another a lot more. So how do I just listen and be and go, oh, I hear you. That's okay. I accept that part too. You feel like you can have this conversation with yourself. It's like that part feels like they're so ashamed or so embarrassed or so guilty or so whatever it is. There's the judgment. There's the perception that something is wrong, that it's broken, that it needs fixing. And this loving part that can just sit and hold it all says, that's okay. I see you. And I see you even that you feel ashamed of this part of you. And I want to let you know I'm not judging you. I'm not judging it. If we can exhale into the process rather than like everything requires so much work. Like I was speaking to someone about this. It was kind of an interesting observation. So this is a very American term that I remember when I lived there, and just observing parents. Whenever a kid does something, they'll be like, good job, good job. And I thought, oh, that's so interesting. Why the term job? Why is that a saying, good job, right? Because it slides into that whole paradigm of everything is work. It's around a job. You do a job good, well, or you don't do a job well or good, right? Isn't it interesting? Like, I know that this is just semantics, but actually words are very, very powerful. They're very powerful. And you know, in this self-improvement realm, and even in the spiritual realm, I want to differentiate work from effort, maybe, or energy or engagement. But in the spiritual realm or in the self-development realm, we can go into that terminology of work. Are you doing the inner work? And I've used it. Been there a million times saying that, right? But I'm like, oh, actually, do I want to use that? Do I want to use that word? Because we have this connotation that work is it's hard work. It's a lot of work. It's not really what I want to be doing. It's not fun. You know, we don't associate work as something that's enjoyable, right? I remember when I read the continuum concept, and this woman, I forget her name, the author, she was with this tribe in the Amazon. They don't have the word work. They have to do a lot of work in our terminology, you know, but she said when she was watching this tribe, I think, carry the canoes like upstream, you know, and it was hard, what we would call hard work. You know, they had to pick things up and they had to roll things over, you know, logs and all of this stuff. But she said they were so joyful and they were so collaborative. And yeah, I don't even have words for it. I was going to say they worked well together, right? This is just, you know, English language, right? There's a limitation because they don't have the concept in their mind that it's hard work. It's like, it just is what it is. And they do it, and they still are able to do it with joy and celebration and collaboration, right? That is the biggest thing that we're needing to learn as a human species right now. We are taught to divide and be in division and to be against, but actually we need to learn how to be with. And that doesn't just go outside of ourselves, that goes within ourselves, right? We have to be with all of ourselves, all of the different identities, all of the different characters and archetypes, and, you know, the wounded part and the inner child. We have to be with these parts, not against them, right? The inner conflict is when we're in resistance to how we're feeling and what we're experiencing. So again, just using that as an example of what if doing the inner work wasn't work, but actually it was something that, you know, yes, there might be times where it's hard and it's scary and it takes effort. It takes being engaged and present with, but it's not this slog of like, oh shit, I've got to go and do more inner work. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it if that's the feeling that you go into it with, right? Because we are a species that needs to feel inspired. And when we feel inspired and we feel like things are joyful, even if it takes a lot of effort, even if you have to put a lot into it. Like I remember when I set up the wellness center that my ex-husband and I had, it took so much work. I cannot tell you the levels of exhaustion and how much needed to be done. But because it was inspiring and we were creating something, there was this feeling of like, yeah, so you had to work 14, 15, 16 hours a day, but it didn't feel like work, right? Yes, it was intense. There's an intensity, like when you're you're in labor, giving birth, there's an intensity. You're engaged in something, your body's having to go through something, right? But when we see things as, I don't even like the word labor, because if we see it as something that's laborious, it's hard work, you're like, screw this, I'm not inspired, I don't want to do it, you know? So again, going back to like the shift in perception, just shifting your perception. What if it wasn't work? What if you even didn't need to like heal? You just you're being invited to love yourself more, to love all parts of yourself more. And if you can't get to the love yet, begin with the can I accept it? And through, like, right out of the gate, I'm not broken. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't need to fix anything. I'm not an endless project that I need to improve. If anything, I still, as cliched as it is like the peeling back of the layers of the onion, because there's nobody outside of you that you need to seek for and step into. You were born with your essence. Your soul is right here with you. You are your soul, right? So you don't need to get anywhere. You don't need to like polish yourself up so much that then all of a sudden you've arrived in yourself and you're good, you're authentic, you're whole, you're fulfilled, life is like happy dandy, right? You need to come back home. That's it. And so sometimes there's like the brambles that have grown over the beautiful little cottage in the middle of the, meadow. And you need to like peel back the brambles, but not by being like, well, this is wrong and this sucks. It's like, no. It's just like, okay, that was a layer of protection. This was a coping mechanism. This supported me back then when I needed this. It's like, okay, thank you. I don't need you anymore. Thank you. I don't need you anymore. I want to come back home. I want to come back home. I don't need the armor. I don't need the defenses. I don't need the masks. I don't need the facades. I don't need the excuses. I don't need the belief systems. I get to just land back in myself, and I've always been here. I never left. I just forgot. So you don't need to polish, like sometimes healing feels like, make sure the outside's really polished and then you'll be good and then you'll shine. No. Accept this bramble, and it will naturally just go like, okay, I'm not needed anymore. I'm not needed anymore. And then boom, here you are. Here you always were. And then you get to exhale, and it's not so much work. And I think, it's similar to how, I'm just going to throw this in as another example. Some people really have like a resentment if they have to eat in a particular way. Like, oh, I need to lose weight. I want to lose weight. God, it takes so much work to have to like not eat this and have to eat that and this and that. I have to exercise. And again, laborious work, not inspired, right? Shift the perception to, I really value taking care of myself. It feels really good when I eat well. It feels really good when I move my body, not because I have to go to the gym and I have to work out and I have to burn these many calories and I can't eat that many calories. And do you see, all of that becomes, I need to improve. I need to get better because I'm not good enough as I am, versus I love myself and I really value taking care of myself. Like taking care of me feels good. And then you know what? You will naturally eat better, move your body more, do the things that bring you peace, right? And you don't have to go on to these things of like step 1, step 2. I mean, if that helps, great. But really, it's just as simple as what would feel good for me now. Now, some people might argue back and go, well, what would be good for me now is eating like, box of candy or whatever. But then you have to go into the emotional aspect. What would really feel good for me now? What would really be taking care of myself right now look like? What is it that I'm really, really needing, right? And so you always go into the emotional aspect of yourself that is just needing your loving attention. Doesn't need to be healed, doesn't need to be fixed because it's not broken. So much is around our perception of how we engage with ourselves. When I left San Francisco Ballet, when I was a professional ballet dancer, and I had kind of struggled with my weight for that period of time. And when I left, I remember saying, you know what, Corinne, you can eat whatever the hell you want. Whatever you want. I would eat burgers, I would have milkshakes. But at the same time, I started to like pick up mountain biking, and I really enjoyed being out in nature, and wasn't doing it because of exercise. I was doing it because it was like, I just was enjoying it. I loved going out and doing things like that, swimming and all of these things. And it wasn't this obsessive, oh, I need to do this and I need to burn this many calories. It was like, you know what, Corinne, do whatever the hell you want. Enjoy yourself, girl. Go have fun. And I lost so much weight. And it wasn't because of what I was doing, it was how I was perceiving things. And I was in a state of joy rather than a state of lack and scarcity. So again, I'm just sharing that as an example of the way you perceive and therefore engage with whatever it is that you're wanting to do. It all matters. What matters, and I've said this before, it's not the action, it's the motivation for that action. Is if the motivation is I'm coming from a place of joy, it's going to feel very different than if I'm coming from a place of duty. If it's like, shit, I have to go mountain bike up this bloody mountain and I need to, count the calories and how much fat am I burning. And then, okay, when I come down, I'll have the milkshake, but I'm going to feel really guilty about it. And shit, I better go do something else. Forget it. It's prison. It's prison. It's work. It's laborious. It feels punishing. I don't even want to say doing the inner work. Being in relationship with yourself shouldn't be hard work in that sense, right? It shouldn't be a duty that we're resentful of. It should come from a place of, I love you so much that of course I'm going to take care of you. And of course we've been taught, you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're not lovable, you're not chosen. So we have to move through that bit, right? And the only way to move through that bit is to be the accepting voice that we always wanted. Whether it was from our parents or society or our peers or ourselves or God, right? And God will always say, I choose you, I love you, I accept you for who you are, all of who you are. Even the parts that you do not love and accept of yourself, I accept those parts of you and I love those parts of you. So, what would it feel like if right now you could just let go of the to-do list of who you need to become? You will naturally become more of who you are by just embodying your true self without all of the things that you need to fix to make it better. So I'm just here to invite you into that of change your perception. Maybe change your wording. Look at that, and people have different connotations to different words. So this is not a one size fits all, see what your personal definitions and connotations are. Use the words that feel right for you. If something creates tension in your body, let it go, use a different word or redefine it and spend the time to write that down. I find that writing is really good because it's somatically, I don't know about you. I did this actually the other day. I don't remember phone numbers anymore because you don't have to write them down. But the moment I write it down, I will remember it. I will absolutely remember it. So there's something about the physical movement. It gets into your cellular and your muscular memory. So take a moment to get a piece of paper and pen, sit down, write down what are your current definitions, what are your current connotations, and change them if they need to be changed. Yeah. And then just be aware of how are you conversing with yourself. We don't want romantic relationships that feel like drudgery. There's engagement, there's effort, there's compromise, there's presence, there's the growth happens when you're like, you know what, I choose you and I'm here with you. And no matter what the terrain, we're going to move through it together, right? There's effort in that, but it shouldn't be like, oh God, it's just so much hard work, or it's just too hard. There's too many then normally that signifies that it's not a good match, because relationship will take engagement and a level of effort and a level of putting energy into if you want to have it be sustained for a long time. But if right off the bat, it's really, really hard work and you're like, it shouldn't be this hard, that it's not the right relationship. So I want you to use that analogy and go, am I doing that with myself? Am I looking at myself as like a relationship that's like, oh man, this is a pain in the ass. This is too much work, right? If it feels like it's too much work, change your perception, change your connotation, change your definitions around it. It should be something that's like, oh, I really look forward to the time that I just spend with myself. That's why I don't call it meditation. I just call it being with. I have a moment to be with myself. Find more pockets of silence where you can just be with yourself and feel, as I've been speaking to, feel what is the essence of your energy, of your soul, of your being. Get to know yourself just like you would want to get to know a romantic partner. But change the way that you see it. Make it into something that you want to do because it brings you a sense of joy or just warmth and love. Yeah. And then if it brings you into that state of like, this is relaxing. There's an effort because I'm engaging and I'm putting presence into it, but it's not hard work and it's not like drudgery, right? So the simple thing that I always come back to is, are you in a state of tension or are you in a state of relaxation? All right. Super simple, not always easy, but super, super simple. So that's the invitation today. Let go of trying so hard. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You don't even need to heal. You just need to love every nook and cranny of who you are, and then you will be free. As always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. Thank you for being here. Bye. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.